If I had $1,000,000,
if I had $1,000,000,
well, I'd buy you a house.
I would buy you a house.
And if I had
All right.
$1,000,000,
Welcome to the Sunday reCHORDit.
buy you furniture for your house.
Maybe a nice
Today-
Chesterfield or an ottoman.
Hey, Angela.
If I had $1,000,000,
If I had
All right, so we got it set up here.
well, I'd buy.
And welcome to the Sunday reCHORDit. Today we are talking about the song "If I Had $1,000,000" by Barenaked Ladies. That was our song for the week, and I'm gonna get it queued up here. All right. So, Angela, had you heard the song before we chose it for this week?
No, I had never heard it, although now I've listened to it it's so catchy I cannot get it out of my head. But really the only song I knew by this band was like their most popular hit, I think, one week. So this one was new to me.
Yeah, I was surprised. It was something that was I remember being on the radio quite a bit when I was a kid, and I was a Barenaked Ladies fan. As a kid, I didn't feel like that was kind of something I kind of didn't make too well known, because for whatever reason I felt like maybe it wasn't cool to like this band, and maybe it's still
Yeah.
not. But I have
Yeah.
to say, this week, I really tuned into the nostalgia, and I really went back in time. I had a lot of their albums.
Really?
I did.
Wow.
And
I did not
I,
know
I
this.
may still have them. I um, they represented just fun, and I think that's what I liked about them. Every time I listened to their songs, they were kind of this balance of silly songs, but also a whole lot of serious songs too. And of course, they're kind of well known for their little catchy, like the way that Ed Robertson kind of just hits you fast with the lyrics. But we chose this one, I chose this one because this was also the week that we launched our Pop Star program, and it's that's something I thought I would never really do, and it's something I never did when I was teaching private lessons. This an incentive-based program. It's like, well, your incentive is just you're a musician, you know.
You gotta want it.
You gotta want it, and you want to play. But now that we're building this community experience, it's kind of it can just be fun, and that's kind of what the song reminded me of. And it's like, hey, this incentive doesn't have to be just something to get people. It can be just these like little fun competitions and a way of celebrating milestones that students hit throughout the program. And you know that you do a lot of work. I was talking about, I love having my little loyalty card for my local coffee shop. It's just you buy your 10 drinks and you get one free. I'm not going there to get my card marked. I'm going there because I want the coffee. And it's the same thing here. It's like you're coming here to learn the music, but it's nice that after a while of showing up, and you can get yourself get yourself a nice prize from the campus store, our pop shop.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about, I mean, the song. Like I said, this week, my notes for this week are mostly about the history of the band. And as far as what's in the song, we were in the key of A major. It's pretty straightforward. You got your 3 primary chords, you've got your 6 chord, and I mean, it's your basic hit song. I was surprised this song was all the way back in 1988, and Stephen Page and Ed Robertson, who are the kind of the lead songwriters and singers, I didn't know this, but they met in this gifted program in like 4th and 5th grade that they were both in. Ed Robertson said, I always kind of felt like I was there by accident. And Ed Robertson had approached Stephen Page and started singing some of his songs. Stephen Page was flattered. They started harmonizing together, and that's when they kind of realized this just works. Like the harmony just works. I think you were talking before about sibling harmonies, right? Like
Yeah, my sister always says that because I used to sing with her. She's a songwriter, and yeah, she said even people say something about the structure, but like the same structure of your bones. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it's I mean, they're not siblings, but
just
it's kind of that thing where it's like it
from a
just
young age, if you feel it with somebody, there probably is something not necessarily related, but just certain voices, the qualities or the resonances, make sense, just kind of work together.
for sure. And what they were talking about, I was watching some of their interviews. taking their songcraft very seriously without taking themselves too seriously. And this album was apparently the first indie release to reach a platinum status in Canada, and they beat out U2 and Madonna the year that it came out. And it was just this little 5-song EP, low budget. They were putting out like very low budget music videos, and they were competing with people doing these huge like $1 million budget and getting just as much attention. And I think that it just that their good nature and their humor just really caught on with a lot of people.
You know that quote, actually, if you go back, you know, the quote that you just had, taking their songcraft seriously without taking themselves too seriously. I like that you pulled that out, because that really reminds me of our, like, the way we try to approach our whole program in Popmatics. It's like we take music very seriously and playing the piano very seriously, but we also like always try to have fun while we're doing it. So it's sort of I like that you pulled that out, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's serious business, but we can have a lot of fun while we're doing it. And when I was making the RCI for this week, I decided to, since they're kind of going back and forth with the way they sing here, you can hear.
You a K car,
A nice reliant automobile.
if
I would-
had a million.
The shift in who was talking, I just did it in a different color. This is something I picked up from a friend of mine who's an author. He writes novels on a mechanical typewriter, and that's the options he has is red and black, and he always switches there, so you don't have to say like he said this, and it's just very clear like that the dialogue is changing. So that was kind of a cool thing there. It's just 1-5-4 here in the verse, and then when we get to the chorus, we'll just listen to a little bit of the chorus here.
Dollars, I'd buy your
So when I put this little slash G sharp there, that's just a movement in the bass.
I build a tree fort in our yard.
If I had $1 million,
You could help, it wouldn't be that hard.
if I had $1 million,
Maybe we can put like a little tiny fridge in there somewhere.
we could just go up there and hang out.
Like open the
This
fridge.
is my favorite lyrics, the tree fort and the fridge and all the food. I love those lyrics so much. Love it. And I love the back and forth. I don't think we've heard a song yet. I mean, it's unusual to have call and response the whole way through, like all that back and forth. So I just think it really is one of the really cool things about this song.
Yeah, and this banter changes. If you watch any live performances by the band, like when you watch the reunion, the dialogue that happens there, and I tried hard to place those chords around where they were talking. This would be a really difficult thing to probably try to play and sing, just because it comes off so naturally to them. The band's kind of playing, they're just going back and forth. But I watched this video from Live at Farm Aid in 2000. And
Yeah, that's the one you shared in the group, right? Is that the one you shared? Yeah.
and they talked about they're talking about these like pre-wrapped little sausages and things, and when they said that maybe we could put a little tiny fridge in there somewhere, then Ed Robertson says, as long as it's big enough to hold some nice fresh organically grown foods. And then their whole banter changes up there. And they had American composer and arranger David Amram on there, who, if you go on Wikipedia and you look at his credits, I mean, he's playing with Aaron Copland, Thelonious Monk, Dizzy Gillespie, Charles Mingus, Sonny Rollins, Stan Getz, and even pop artists like Bob Dylan.
He was the penny whistle guy in that video. Oh, I didn't know who that was. Wow.
Yeah. And so, yep, that was David Amram. And if you do watch that video at 3:22, Stephen Page does like a high kick on stage. It's just like, it's like just this crazy, quirky little beat. But I'm watching this and I'm like, I mean, there's a guy who's just not afraid to have fun on stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so David Amram's up there playing the penny whistle, and then all of a sudden, Ed Robertson starts singing this very funny like.
Oh yeah.
He goes, peanut butter sandwich made with jam, one for me and one for David Amram. To the tune of Arkansas Traveler, right? Which my children know as the little baby bumblebee.
Bumblebees. Yeah, that's one I know.
So it's just
You
these
probably
little
read this too, but like what I heard, you never know what you read on the internet, but I heard that to keep all this like when they recorded it, they wanted to be fun and spontaneous. So they just did 15 different takes of all different, like they just always made up the lyrics on the spot. And then they just
Wow.
picked their favorite set. So they didn't write all of those words ahead of time. They just got up there and did it. And these were the ones that they ended up thinking were the best.
That's so cool to hear because you know the band broke up in like 2009, and everybody's always looking for the story, like why did you break up? Was there arguments in the band? It's like they were like, well, yeah, I because like we broke up, but also at the same time there wasn't like this big story. Is kind of just they weren't on the same page. But one of the things they talked about is that the band, no matter what troubles they were going through, they could always perform together. And I've heard people talk about this all the time. When you're on the stage, it's different. Everything changes when you're on the stage, and they can turn on a dime. My teacher James Argero talks about this, who worked with so many stars, and he says, off the stage, beautiful people. You start working with them on the stage, and it's like all of a sudden everything you do is looked at under the microscope. So anyway, I just thought that was cool. I remember the Old Apartment, which was their song that apparently broke them in the United States. I remember being let's see, I think I was a junior, or yeah, I was a junior, and I had a friend of mine who was a freshman who was keyboard player, and he was all into MIDI and keyboards, and I was kind of just getting into it. And I would always go over to his house. This was in the early days of MIDI, and he would always be making these MIDI tracks, and I'd be hanging out and watching. I remember he shared that video with me, the Old Apartment video, and I think that was the first time I saw the band, which was kind of a more serious song. And there was something right away with Stephen Page I just connected with. I just loved his voice. I thought it stood out to me. And that video was, I mean, I think that was like 96. It kind of just stuck with me in the same way that Mr. Jones, Counting Crows, which is another one of my favorite bands.
Mm-hmm.
Just that music video kind of hit me the first time I saw it, and I wanted to keep watching it. And music videos never really, I was never really a music video kid. Were you?
Yeah, same. No, yeah, no, not really. We
There's a,
also
there's
didn't
a,
have MTV when it came out. We didn't have cable, so
oh, okay.
there was that too. But I never really was that into them as much as just listening. Yeah.
Yeah, we built this city on rock and roll. That was the big music video that I remember, and then a few Michael Jackson ones. But I didn't watch a lot of a lot of MTV myself. It's interesting now that we're doing a lot of these. I'm always looking for the music video though.
Yeah.
I'm,
Well, I love it when we watch the live ones in the group because I did, I was like, is that an accordion? I think so. And it has been really fun to see where you can connect the instruments, because part of what we do is try to hear what instruments are in the recording, and the live always just helps with that. So I do
yeah,
appreciate the live more than just like but it is fun to go back and watch the videos too.
for sure. Yeah, and I think the thing is now that I have the appreciation of, I'm tuning into the lyrics more. We're making that a
Yeah.
focus of when we do
Hmm.
we just deliver the lyrics. And some people, you might think it's obvious. It's like, oh, everybody's going to know that song, but it turned out like a lot of people didn't know this song.
Hmm.
And you read just the lyrics of this song without ever having heard it before, it's kind of like you wonder what it's going to sound like.
It's always so fun to read the lyric, like the way we read the lyrics before we hear the song. It's like you have no idea. You can't imagine like what is that song going to be.
And I always like to look later and see, how did they tell the story? Because you go to the movies and it's like the music is written to enhance the visuals on stage, and then here it's like, well, how do you have the visuals kind of tell the story of the song? So anyway, there's like I said, not a whole lot to talk about here. It's um the
There was some nice piano in this one. Like we did some of that, like the little penna crushes. So that was kind of a fun one in class to talk about some of the piano stuff in this one, right? Um,
sure. And
again,
yeah,
like
we
simple chords, but it's a fun one, even though they're pretty simple, it's kind of easy, to mess around with it.
for sure. Yeah, it was fun to play around with, and all the um and yeah, those pentacrushes, those little piano lines, those are all things that I've pulled from. This keyboard player, I think, he always did a nice job, and that was something that stood out to me, even though back then when I was listening to him, I wasn't even playing piano really so much. So anyway, we'll just listen to a little bit more to take us out. And
Wait, I gotta say one more thing. If anybody knows like what a pre-wrapped sausage is, like please tell us, because I still don't know what that, like I've never heard of this. It's like, is that a Canadian thing? Or maybe we could ask some of our Canadian students actually, because I'm just really curious about that. And then also like the craft dinner is, if anyone is wondering about that lyric, that's what they call craft mac and cheese, like in Canada, it's the craft dinner. And people used to bring boxes of those and throw them at their shows. So that's I told you I love the food, like the lines, the lyrics, this one are just so great. So yeah, I had to try to look into the food a little bit. Yeah, let's listen a little more. I know we're running long here.
$1 million. Well, I'd buy you a green dress, but
not a real green dress. That's true.
if I had $1 million. If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you something.
You know what else I loved about the song? I buy your love. That was the one part where they sang together, right? And I thought that was really cool.
Right.
We said it was call and response, but they did come together on that one line.
Yeah.
Haven't you always wanted a monkey? If I had $1 million.
And you got the accordion in the back.
Yeah, I love accordion too.
Yeah, and the little walk downs here. It's kind of a walk down the primary chord scale, but again, not without that full 5/7, just the movement in the bass. It's kind of some country bass lines.
Yeah, we kind of talked about the country bass line in class a little bit too. Yeah.
I'd be rich.
So that's it for today. We'll be back with a new song tomorrow. We'll announce a new song in our Discord channel tomorrow, our Discord server tomorrow. And yeah, that's it.
And if anyone else wants to hop on with us on Discord, it's free to join and
come hang
conversations with us. Let us. We'll have a link right in the below the YouTube.
We'll have and we'll be back with another live next week to unpack that song. So have a great night.
Have a good night.
Bye.